Hi friends! This week we've been thinking about the difference between being a container and a conduit for the Holy Spirit. Today I want to continue that line of thinking, but I want to shift the analogy from flowing water to flowing electricity, from channels and containers to conductors and resistors. Let me take you back to high school science class. Floating around the periphery of every atom are electrons, and electrons have the ability to pass from one atom to another. The difference between a conductor and a resistor could be stated like this. A conductor is willing to let go of its electrons. We might say that a conductor has a generosity of spirit when it comes to its electrons. A conductor's response to God is a willingness to let go of what is mine, to receive whatever God offers and then to give whatever God asks. A conductor's deepest desire is for God and for God's will to be done. All other desires take a backseat to this. A resistor, by contrast, does not want to let go. It hangs on to its little electrons. It clings to the status quo. It's afraid to let go because it wants to keep all of its little possessions intact. And so it does. But a resistor never knows much power. The conductor does not generate its own power. It's not particularly strong or clever. It's simply a conduit. It is open and receptive to the flow of the current that has the power to change the world from darkness to light. The current of the Holy Spirit is all around us. We can choose to be conductors, conduits of God's Spirit and the Spirit's virtues, spreading power and love and kindness, faithfulness, generosity, patience, peace, joy, and love, gentleness to the people and the world around us. We can also choose to be resistors, clinging to our own perceived power, trusting in our own abilities rather than God's, and closing ourselves off to any perception or recognition of the Spirit's work. It's interesting how often in the scriptures resistors and conductors are paired. Often it's the people with the greatest outward power who are the ones who resist the most. And those who look less significant end up being the conduits of God's Spirit. For example, Pharaoh was a resistor. God's power could have flowed through him, but he said no. Moses was a conductor. He had many inadequacies and shortcomings, but from the burning bush to his final moments looking out over the promised land, he learned to trust God. King Saul was an impressive man, head and shoulders above the rest, but he shut his heart to God. David was very human, very fallible, but he allowed the flow of the Spirit to move through him, and at times it was unmistakable. Haman had the power in human terms, but his heart was a hostile circuit breaker. Esther, a woman who was regarded just as another pretty face, was a bolt of lightning. Herod was called the Great, but he held tight to his throne and resisted the Messiah. Mary, a young peasant woman, made her heart a throne for God and carried the Messiah into the world. The reality is that, at least to some small degree, our heart is always assuming either the posture of a resistor or a conductor. From one moment to the next, we make choices that either allow or deny the power of God's Spirit to flow through us. Thanks for listening. I'll see you again tomorrow.